power, no one stands a chance.
Is it just me, or is it getting a little bit nippy out here?
He's here. And there is nothing you can do to stop him.
Oh, am I?
So we left off with me, right? So
Am I using this? I'm talking into this mic, or no? Or is it cool sitting here? Or what?
Yeah,
Okay.
So that's when we'll make a switch over and get your film.
Just to go to another direction and work with lesser known characters of the franchise.
I mean, it's something that I was that we were really interested in doing. I mean, it started off when we were talking about it. I just wanted to do a solo Sub-Zero film. You know, I wanted to focus more on him because he was around in the first two, but also, you know, we didn't get to explore him as deeply as I liked. And also coming off the first two films, so many characters, so many big ideas. It scaled up so huge and into this, like, you know, we did this really weird, you know, metaphysical, bringing the realms in and all that stuff. That to me, even as we were in the midst of making that, I was like, if we do another one, we're going small with it, you know, and scaling it down, because I didn't want to. I mean, I know everybody has their favorite character in this thing, and everybody wants to see them, but they don't want to see them if it's just, you know, we do have cameos and stuff in here, obviously, but it's about Kenshi and it's about Sub-Zero, and that's about it. We tell their story. I just wanted to do something simpler in that regard.
All right, so I'm gonna ask the question. You're here promoting two very different movies.
Yes.
Super Sons and Snowblind. So obviously one is for families and one's more for adults. How do you go from one project to another and approach them differently? Like, and how do you have your mind switch between, like, knowing what's the right appropriate thing for each film?
I don't know, man. I honestly I love so many different things. You know, there's so many different influences that I grew up with, and you know, genres of film that I like to work in and touch and stuff like that. And so it was really more about, like, having a clear idea in my head of what each film was, which I had, and which you know, I developed with Jeremy, like, pretty early on. We knew what this was. It's part spaghetti western, part Mad Max, you know, part samurai film, and that's kind of, you know. And then Super Sons was the, you know, it's the Richard Donner Superman. It's the Amblin films that I grew up with. It's Monster Squad. You know, it's so. I don't know. I feel like I can pretty easily separate the two. Like this, you know, we can't have the ultra violence obviously in Super Sons, and it doesn't call for it, and it's not appropriate. But here, Mortal Kombat. So for me, I get the best of both worlds, because I have the outlet. You know, I get to come up with the gruesome, comical deaths in Mortal Kombat, and then, you know, we also get the heart and, you know, soul in Super Sons. You know, it's like, I think that's the interest to me, is like, I just like working on different things.
So obviously you've directed past animation for TV shows that DTV's produced as well. This time, this project you're producing and directing. I know sometimes the roles, they mix together, but I'm curious how coming on to directing this project came about.
You know, I just made the decision to do it. As we started to, I mean, it was selfish, of course. As we started talking about the story, I'm like, oh, this is actually really cool. I want to do this one. You know, there's always that thing in the back of my head, but also it'd been a little while since I directed something myself, you know, so I just wanted to, you know, flex that muscle again a little bit and work directly with the board artists, which I don't generally get to do a lot of times when I'm overseeing this stuff, you know. So yeah, doing both, and then I brought in a great art director, Todd Gibbs, who oversaw this and did a really great job with it. So that was he took some of the weight off my shoulders on that end. And so yeah, and it was a lot of fun to be able to work with these guys and get into the boards and get into the story in a heavier way.
Alright, so the action from the original two films is like a lot. You have these X-ray sequences mashed in, and then you have like heads blown off, buildings collapsing all around. Would you say that the action here has been like upgraded in that sort of sense?
I don't know that I don't know that it's upgraded, but it's got a different flow to it. I feel like like the pace of this film is different in that it's not all bloody violence the entire time. It's like we start you off with just this explosion of really ultra violence at the beginning of it, and then kind of taper that off a little bit and slow down throughout, and build up their relationship a bit to the finale, which is then just like over the top, ridiculous, violent. I think that aspect has to be in Mortal Kombat. You need the ultra violence. You need, the kind of, the wink at the audience with the fatalities and stuff like that. But it was just, to me, it's not that, we've outdone things or not or whatever. It's like, what was the flow of the story? How are we telling it? And I think that's a little different in this one than it was in the previous.
All right, thank you.
So you kind of touched a bit upon like why you chose these particular characters, like making like Kano the main villain. What other Mortal Kombat could we potentially see in the future? Will we see, without giving spoilers, more Kenshi?
Oh, I mean, look, it's always dependent on how well these films are supported. I mean, the reality is like, if they make money and there's demand in that area, then, I mean, if this thing blows up in a really significant way and there's a huge demand for Kenshi, you will see more Kenshi films. If not, then there's not. But my role in this is, I think we set up this version of the character as badly as we beat him up in this movie. At the end, he's the guy. He's the last force for good, really, on this planet. And so there's obviously any number of stories that you could continue to tell with him in particular going forward. But also, there are so many other Mortal Kombat characters that you can explore going forward in a similar way, in that you're telling a singular story that's drilling down into that particular character. To me, and that was a lot of the reason why we made this film the way that we did, was to sort of open up the world. Like, there's no tournament in this movie. We took it away from that, and like, that's a big part of Mortal Kombat, right? I mean, that's the game. Is a lot of times it's the tournament. But I wanted to say that, like, you can do a story in this world without being tied to that, and then the way that we've done it in the reveal at the end of the film, I feel like it basically opens it up to anything. My whole thing on this one was when you play the game and you have a character and you beat the game with that character, there's an ending. There's an ending for that character, and how does that all tie in? Which one is the real ending? There's been so many games, there's been so many different endings, there's been so many versions of these things, and in thinking about that, it's like, well, all of them are the right ending. They all exist somewhere. It's a multiverse. I mean, everybody's doing multiverses right now, but this has been a multiverse forever, and so, the idea that you're in, Kano's ending, I thought was kind of interesting, because who would do that? Like, who would make that movie? But then, that's the surprising thing about it, I feel. So.
More personal question, because I've played the game since SNES and Sega, and Sub-Zero has been my favorite. Throughout the years, his outfit, his attire has always changed. Do you have a specific attire of his you prefer that you love?
I think out of pure nostalgia, it's the Mortal Kombat 2 outfit, because that's probably the game that, like, you know, I played Mortal Kombat 1. That was right. I was right at that age when that was out. That was, you know, what, 11, 12 years old, you know. But MK2, when that came out, it just looked so much better than the first one, and the characters, the costumes got upgraded and all that. And so that's the one, you know. But probably, you know, looking at it realistically, I think now with my taste as an adult and setting aside the nostalgia, I like his costume in 10, you know, in Mortal Kombat X. That to me that's a good look for him, you know.
Just very quickly, in this world where fatalities are a thing and characters get taken off screen, how do you continue, like, what stories to do, and what characters do you get the fatalities put on them in this movie?
Well, you know what, like Mortal Kombat, everybody dies and everybody comes back. It's like, you know, to me, it's the way we kind of took the X-rays out of this one, because we were introducing Kenshi vision, which is, I feel like, a similar idea. So that's kind of why we got away from that. And also, we used it so much in the first two that I felt like, let's just not go to the well too much on this one. But when we did the X-ray effects, it's like, well, the guy's jaw just got broken into a million pieces, and then we come out and he's still fighting. It's like, well, that's what they do in the game. So, like, that's the world we live in. You know, we're just going to embrace that and go with it because it's cool. Simple, you know. All right, I think that's it.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Let's get to 7 movies.
Yeah, 7 movies.